Welcome to the She's So Bossy podcast with Jaci, Russo, and Melissa Bowen. Where the 1.9% of women who built million-dollar businesses come to share their story.
Melissa, I am so excited about our guest today, Stacy Sloan with Three Little Birds Granola. I've known her for a couple of years. She is exactly who I think about when I think about a boss who has built a multi-million-dollar business and, like the rest of us, is still trying to figure it out.
Yeah, I loved hearing that part of her story that that feels so human as people develop into leadership, where you think imposter syndrome and getting support from a coach. And I loved hearing that part of it. So human and yet so persistent in her stubbornness to persevere is good.
Right. Right. And, she built a business for somebody else first, as she explains to us, and then left to build this. I mean, that's the kind of accidental entrepreneur where you just keep saying yes and putting one step in front of the other and making sure it works out. I loved
it because she's passionate about something.
Yes, because you have to be. And I love that she started to explain to us exactly why healthy granola is so important and is kind of an oxymoron.
Yes. And she was talking a lot of granola woo stuff too. So it's a little bit of both.
Well, and I was going to say, that's probably my favorite part. I don't tend to live in that area, but the way she explains it, I'm like, I think you're right. I think that is right. I think that is how the universe works. So y'all stick around and listen to Stacy Sloan talk about healthy granola, some woo-woo manifesting awesomeness, and
into a $1 million company in
multi-million-dollar company.
Yes.
Helping kids.
Yes.
And exactly why she is so bossy.
We eat it up. She's so bossy.
Welcome to the podcast, Stacy Sloan.
Thanks. I'm excited about it.
Well, we are excited about it. We are, at the time of this recording, in Louisiana, and it is, I don't want to lie to the people, because they're going to see on the YouTube version of this a fire raging behind you. And here in Southwest Louisiana, it is officially 92 degrees. So you're a bitch.
We're jealous.
I actually got out. I've been getting out my vest, my puffer vest for the mornings for the dog walks. And that's not even enough. So last week I broke out my North Face knee length. It's the light puffer. It's not the winter puff.
Right.
But you need the puff to walk.
We're just jealous.
Yes, no, we do. And I have a great puffer vest that I got in Italy when Melissa and I were there with our husbands a couple of years ago at a gas station. It's one of my favorite pieces of clothing. It was $17. Like, how could you not buy a great puffer vest? And I wear it almost.
Buc-ee's, but
it's like the Italian Buc-ee's. They call it the Auto Grill.
Oh my
I'm
goodness.
in Michigan. How do you know Buc-ee's?
Oh, because we take a trip every year. We drive from Michigan to Florida. We're about to do it next month, and we stop at Buc-ee's. And I mean, like everybody, I love Buc-ee's.
That's awesome.
Oh my gosh.
I wish we had them here.
I do too. We're going to circle back to 5 other things, but this requires a detour.
Okay.
Carrie from Edward Lowe Foundation spoke at our Women's Summit at Sea this year. And we were on the, how we do like intro call, that first Zoom call, so everybody can get to know each other and we can lay out the rules because you're a summiteer. You know how these things work. And so we mentioned, as you drive in and you want to stop at Buc-ee's, and Carrie said, "What's a Buc-ee's?" So when we picked her up at the airport, we drove straight to the Buc-ee's.
Oh, she would love that.
She did. She was very overwhelmed, but she liked the bathrooms.
Yeah.
It was a cross between Walmart and Disneyland, and she was excited.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the jerky bar.
Oh, yeah. That's what we ate lunch that day. That was our lunch, was Buc-ee's lunch.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I took a whole bunch of jerky with me on the summit last year.
Oh, that was wise. That was very wise.
Because I was in Texas, and so I drove from Dallas to Houston, to Galveston.
Right.
Stopped at Buc-ee's and got some jerky for the cruise.
That is awesome. And not to make this self-promotional, but I would like you to know that you'll be getting an email in the next couple of days that announces the summits for 2026.
Okay.
And because there's 2 in next year. One is in April on land here in Lafayette, Louisiana. And the one in September that we do every year this year is sailing from Italy to Greece to Turkey and back to Italy.
Sounds pretty amazing.
So I'm just saying, put September 6th on your calendar. We'll talk later. So Stacy Sloan, let's talk about you and your business. You
Okay.
make the good granola.
I do.
So tell the people about the good granola.
The good granola is not a ground up cookie in a bag.
Right.
That's what the good granola is. The good granola also doesn't call itself cookie in its name, as others do.
What makes it good? I mean, is that what makes it good granola?
Because it's healthy.
Well, yeah, Jackie, tell them.
I'm just saying because it's healthy, but I want you to tell your story. I'm sorry. I'm not trying to jump in. I'm just excited.
No, that's okay. So it is a misnomer that granola is a health food. It's one of the most egregious lies in the health food sector that granola mass produce is good for you. And when people start cleaning up their act, as I did in 2011, trying to figure out how I should be eating and taking care of myself and whatnot, granola, it's green, it's crunchy, it's at Whole Foods, it's like a whole lifestyle. People call themselves like granola people, right? It's a whole crunchy lifestyle. It's mass produced. It can be so bad for you because it has, in most cases, tons, and I do mean tons, of added sugar. And it does, in most cases, have tons of oils. And if they're not maybe coconut oil, which is better, it's cleaner, they are very bad seed oils. So almost every mass-produced granola cereal or snack is bound together by either some type of seed oil or some other type of fat in copious quantities. So basically what you're getting is a ground up cookie in a bag. And I don't even like oatmeal cookies. So if I'm going to eat cookies, I'm going to have a peanut butter cookie or a chocolate chip cookie or a double chocolate chip cookie. I'm not going to eat an oatmeal cookie. No offense to the people who like oatmeal cookies, but
they're wrong.
It's not a health food in most cases.
Gotcha.
But in your case, how's Three Little Birds work? Tell me about how healthy your granola is, the good granola.
The good granola, the healthy granola, it has only 2 grams of added sugar. And it has always only had 2 grams of added sugar. It's clean label, so we don't use anything basically that you can't pronounce, and there's nothing in it that's artificial. Super clean product. Everything that we put in it is something that you would either have in your pantry if you're somebody who cooks, or you would be very familiar with and very comfortable with. We also really cater to those who adhere to special diets for any type of reason. So for that reason, we are top 14 allergen free. And so we exceed the US, you'll hear people in the US say like the top 9, and that's what the FDA and USDA recognizes as allergen free in the United States. But what we know is that there are way more sensitivities that people have. And in the UK and in other places, they're recognizing the top 14. One of those that would be applicable to granola, because some of them are not, shellfish and fish and whatnot, would be sulfites and sulfates. And in dried fruit, which is something that we use, we do not allow any of those in our products because people have inflammatory reactions to them. And something I care a lot about, because a lot of times when people have special diets, they get really gaslit by a lot of other people. And, I know somebody who has a pineapple allergy, and people give her all kinds of shit about having a pineapple allergy. Somebody that I met last week has an allergy to mango. We're going to be finding, and this is me on my soapbox and with my crystal ball, but we are going to be finding that in the not so distant future, that we are going to have a lot more autoimmune disorder. And autoimmune directly, in many cases, affects people's ability to eat foods that they previously used to be able to enjoy without inflammation or without allergic reaction. And now those foods have become off limits for them. And it's a huge problem, big problem incoming.
Wonderful. How did you get into this? How did this start for you?
How did I get into autoimmune, or how did I get into the business?
Granola.
Creating the granola.
I was working as a chef. I was running a company for somebody else. And I said when I started that job that I would start and run that company for 5 years. So it was a cool opportunity for me. I got to start and run a business using somebody else's money. And
Nice.
it was cool. Yeah, it was really cool. And what we were doing was very cool. And so I did that, but I said, I'm only going to do this for 5 years because that's as long as it's going to take to start it up and stabilize it. And then when I'm done with that, I want to be done. And in the 5th year, I realized I was going to be done. And also at that time, I was looking around at my colleagues in the culinary industry who were older than I was, and they were in their 40s and 50s. And I started, you know, my career as a culinarian when I was 17. So I went right from high school into culinary school, and I never left that industry. But I had a lot of friends who were older than I was, and they were starting to have really significant health problems. And they were, fighting obesity and knee replacements and problems with their back and achy joints and all of this stuff. And a lot of it was because, and especially if you think back at 2011, what did we know about nutrition? We didn't have access to the internet the way that we have it now. And so a lot of what people knew about what was good for them was just what was told to them and had been told to them, and recycled information since, the 90s and earlier. And I just thought, if I don't want that to happen to me, I should figure out what I should be doing. And in my life, my weight had constantly fluctuated. As a kid, I started out as a real little kid, but then I had some childhood trauma and that ballooned my weight and codependency on food. And so I really got to, be 30 years old and say, like, I've got to do something about this. And so I started to try to be self-taught about what was good, what was bad, what should I be doing, what should I not be doing. I got certified as a yoga instructor and certified as a spinning instructor, and I was running marathons and half marathons. And the food was the piece that I couldn't really quite figure out. And so I started to eat granola, and then I started learning about nutrition and thought, oh, this is really not that good for me. So I'm going to make my own. And it's that cliche story of the food founder who makes the salsa and the jam and the whatnot and starts giving it to other people, and other people like it and they say, you should sell this. And so you start selling it and it works or it doesn't.
That is incredible.
Thanks.
And you just started making granola.
Started making granola.
Right. And just built a whole business out of it. And so, Stacy, talk about who you specifically make granola for.
I specifically make granola for a segment of food service that I love and I did not have on my radar. It happened quite by accident. I work almost exclusively with K-12 schools. And we work to be in compliance and to exceed the guidelines of the school breakfast and lunch and snack programs and after school foods, supper, and summer meal programs. It happened because I was making granola, I was selling it to chefs, and another colleague found out about it. And he said, well, I'm the regional district chef for Detroit Public Schools. My boss, Betty Wiggins, wants to bring in something that's local to Michigan and made in a more healthy fashion and more clean than what we're offering the kids now. Would you want to sell your granola to us? And I said, sure, why not? I'm already selling granola in bulk to chefs. And he said, well, okay, that's great, but you're going to have to reformulate your recipe because we have these guidelines from the USDA. I had never heard of that before. And so he really helped me. And his name is Kevin Frank. I will always be such a fan of his and so appreciative to him, because if it were not for him and for his boss, Betty Wiggins, I don't know what I would be doing. I wouldn't have been making granola still, probably. And they really introduced me to the world of childhood nutrition. And I care so much about it. And one of the reasons that I kind of touched on that I care about it so much is because when I was a kid, I was set up I had set myself up without supervision with a lifelong food addiction. And this is the time when we're helping kids develop the palate for what they like to eat and what they're going to reach for and what they understand to know is healthy for them. And this is not like, of course, you're not going to teach kids how to smoke, but we're basically doing the same thing to them if we're not providing to them access to the highest quality, cleanest, most nutritious, least processed foods available. So this is a real soapbox issue for me, because they're going to carry this with them for the rest of their lives. So it matters now because it matters as it pertains to, their test scores, because we really care about that in this country. We really care about, how much information they're able to retain and how they're able to show up in their lives and be, kids in their classroom with other kids and teachers, and behavior. We can reduce behavior problems and increase concentration if we give them really great food. And so it matters today, but it's also going to matter when they're 90 years old. Because
100%. I wish I had you when I was growing up, when all I had was sugar with milk and a spoon.
Right. Colored sugar, pretty sugar.
Yeah. Yeah. And I love how you describe it, because it makes it have so much meaning and purpose behind what you do. And that's beautiful.
Thank you.
Yep. No, I love it. And so how many different school districts are you in now?
So there does become a point when you don't know who all your customers are anymore.
Yeah.
Which is a little sad, makes me a little sad, but also very exciting, because it means that you have a business that's viable and bigger than you can keep your fingertips on at all times. What I can tell you is that we operate in Michigan, Minnesota, Texas, California, and Colorado.
Wow.
That's a lot of kids.
Yeah, that's impressive.
It is. It's fun. It's really cool to be able to see what the different states are doing, because every state has different things that they do. So, they're showing up in certain ways based on their demographics and what's local to them and what's cultural to them, what kind of funding they get from their states.
How hard, or I don't know if we're at this point of the questions, Jaci, you may have more practical ones right now, but I want to know, how hard or easy was it to grow into all this?
It was super hard. It was super hard. I made it harder. And this is something that I want people, if they're starting out or if they're still in first stage.
Yes, lay it on us, please. Save me. Save me from myself.
I didn't have the confidence. So I put the limit on myself. I was really afraid to talk to people. And I was really afraid to make cold calls. And part of that was because I had come from being an expert in the field where I was a working chef, and I knew how to do that. And I had been doing that for 15 years. But then I transitioned to a totally different segment of the food service industry that doesn't behave at all like the rest of the food service industry. And they have different guidelines, and they have different things that they have as priorities. And the guidelines were really intimidating to me because they are very specific, and it's the law. You have to be in compliance with these laws, and you have to attest that your products do meet these set of criteria. And because it's pretty complicated, because every program can be different. So there's guidelines that are set by the federal government, and there's guidelines that are also set for funding in the state that they operate in. And the funding is different at all of those levels, but the rules are also different when it comes to pre-K to K through 12. But then the rules are different in the summer for the programs that aren't the same as they are during the school year. So it's a lot. And I really struggled to understand how to be in compliance and understand all of those things. And I really felt like I didn't deserve to cold call people until I knew a lot about it. So I knew what my product was, but I thought, God, if I call them, they're going to know I'm a fraud. I don't know what this meal pattern is, and I don't know what the reimbursement rate is, and they're going to know that I don't know what I'm talking about. And so for a long time, I just hid, and I sold to one customer, and I did that for 3 years before I had the nerve to call on another school district.
As if you have to know it all from the jump. Yeah.
Yep. And so I really stopped myself. I made it a lot. It was hard. It's going to be hard. Whatever you're doing, it's going to be hard. Just be ready. But I made it harder because I didn't have the confidence in myself to really put myself out there and fail and risk and look stupid and all those things.
So then your advice would be to?
Oh, put yourself out there. Put yourself out there. I think, I know that there's a lot of men in the world who also lack confidence, but I feel like the more women that I meet, and especially the women who are in business, they lack a lot of confidence, and they lack a lot of, there's a lot of discussion about worthiness and deservingness and, can I put myself first at the expense of my family or at the expense of whatever, and I definitely went through that. And it's been an ongoing thing, right? Like, it's, even though I've built confidence as I've built the business, because the better you do, the more confident hopefully you get. But even as of 2 weeks ago, I was having a whole week long 5-day session with my coach. And it was all about this. It was just all about like worthiness and deservingness and acting from this place of being worthy and deserving and taking actions from your true self, not the person that you think that you are. Stop making actions from that person. That person, not the person.
That person's an idiot.
That it doesn't even exist, right? That person isn't even real.
Oh,
right.
That's good.
Right.
That's good.
Persons pretend. As you're talking, I'm just like nodding my head, being like, yes, preach, tell me more, because it reminds me of a quote that I perform every time I do this women in leadership and how women build brands kind of differently than men presentation. And I did it this year on the summit. And it's from Jennifer Garner, back at a time when she was married to Ben Affleck, and they were each promoting movies at the same time. And they both had press junkets for their projects at the same time. And they got home, and like couples do, they're laying in bed and they're sharing notes of the day. And she said, I went through so press junket is when you, it's like Notting Hill, where like there's a whole line of media and they come in one at a time. They interview every actor on the feature. And so you kind of get the same questions and give the same answers. And she was lamenting that every single person that interviewed her that day asked about how she balances working and kids and how she makes time for the family while she's on location. And does she ever have guilt about leaving all this stuff, not about the work, not about this whole other farm business and food manufacturing company that's a lot like yours that she's built. It was all about that. And Ben let her go. And then he said, weird. All they asked me was about the tits on my co-star. And that sums up the difference in the way men and women think about their approach to work and the way we are asked about our approach to work.
Yeah. Yes.
So it's a long story to say, I think you're right that it is primarily women that have those challenges compared to men, because we're built differently, but we also have a different set of expectations.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, there is.
Did you ever have a time? Go ahead, Deb.
No, you go.
Did you ever have a time where you thought that this wasn't yours to build, or you were going in the wrong direction, or maybe?
No, I am blessed that I never did doubt what I was doing.
Good.
So I knew that I didn't know how to do what I was doing, but I knew I should keep doing it. So there has never been a moment where I thought, this isn't for me. I can't keep doing this anymore. I'm not going to do this anymore. But in general, that is also part of my personality. So I'm like an incredibly stubborn and persistent person. And so once I do decide to do something, there's no option for me but to keep doing it until I do it the way that I want to do it.
And so it sounds like it was those qualities that pushed through the imposter syndrome or the I don't know enough yet, and just let you keep going.
Yeah.
Awesome.
What's a lesson that you feel like you kind of had to learn the hard way, but you're so glad you did?
That's a good question, and nobody's ever asked me this before.
That's what we're here for, the good questions.
That's a good question. To spend money when you don't want to.
Oh, yeah. Tell me the story. There's a story behind that.
Well, I mean, there's a story every day. It's a huge story every day. Because what happens is when you tell yourself that you're not going to hire somebody, or you're not going to go to a trade show or an event that you know would be good for your business, but you say you can't do it because you don't have the money. And when I have the money, then I'll go do that thing. The problem with that is then you're never going to have the money, because you're always going to find some other, I don't want to call it an escape hatch, but there's just this, it's actually a vibration and a frequency, if we want to go there. But there is this intention that you're saying, I'll do this when actually you have to act and commit and decide before you're ready. So you don't need the money until you decide. If you haven't made a firm decision, and this is another thing that I wish would have been really explained to me in crystal clear fashion when I started, is that you have to make very quick decisions. And if you are somebody who struggles with being decisive, you need to decide intentionally that you're going to stop that behavior in yourself, because it's very damaging. If you cannot learn how to make decisions quickly and act on them, the results of that are very damaging to your business. And they're also damaging to you because they erode your confidence. So you don't need the money for something until you decide to do the thing that you're going to do. It's sort of a manner of working backwards. So you could say, well, it would really help my business if I could go to this trade show, but that's going to cost me $12,000. So that's not for this year. That's for next year. Well, you're going to go to next year and you're still not going to have $12,000 to do it. And so that cycle is really appealing. And it makes sense. It makes logical sense. I can't do that. But you haven't decided, which means you haven't committed and you haven't put yourself on the hook. And then there's too many ways that you can kind of spin out
and talk yourself out of it.
You talk yourself out of it, and then you stay the same. You stay in this like plateau phase. Hopefully it doesn't cause you to even backslide, but not making the decision. So you have to, so how did I break that? How I broke that was, one, through coaching, but also two, when an opportunity comes, you say to yourself, is this opportunity going to expand and grow me and my business, or is it not? If it's not, it's an easy no. You just don't do it. It doesn't, good, you're done. You're moving on to the next thing. But if it is going to grow and expand you and your business to that next level, you have to say yes. And you have to act before you're ready. Now, somebody just asked me, somebody that I'm mentoring last week asked me, and she said, what if you really don't have the money at that time? What I want you to do, which will be very uncomfortable for a lot of people, is to decide in your mind that you're going to do it. And then you're going to pretend that you did it. And then you're going to see and imagine yourself, and you carve out specific time, 5 minutes a day, where you sit there and it's quiet and you think and you imagine what it looks like when you go to that trade show that costs you $12,000, and you close your eyes and you imagine, what does the booth look like, and who do you talk to, and why are you there, and what are you saying to them? You feel all the feelings that you would feel if you were really there, because your subconscious mind doesn't know the difference between what's real and imagined. So even if you don't have the money today, you need to today pretend that you do and make the decision in your mind, because your mind doesn't know the difference.
I love that. I really can't even tell you that how much I love it, because I did not appreciate that was like a conscious choice. And as you're talking, I'm thinking, well, doesn't everybody do that? But I'm looking at Melissa's face and I'm realizing they don't much.
Right. No.
Yeah. And so I'm like, yeah. And not to be woo woo, but I feel like when you do that, you manifest the thing that ends up paying you the $12,000 that, like,
and that's that energy and frequency she was talking about. Yeah.
I'm always like, no, it's going to work out. Like, you just have to have the faith. It will all work out for the best. And if $12,000 doesn't appear, then I wasn't supposed to go to that show, but I know I need to make it appear for next year. And when it does appear, and I mean appear, not like there's a bag of cash laying on the street. I mean, something I didn't know was going to happen all of a sudden falls into place. And it's like, okay, universe is saying, go do that thing. And it made it possible. But really, you made it possible because you manifested it.
Yes. And what happens is when you make that decision, the decision and the idea, you put yourself on the frequency of where all of that exists, where all of that is possible. And when you get onto that frequency and you hold yourself there and you keep seeing it, you keep imagining it, you keep feeling it, that practice is going to attract to you all of the people, all of the customers, all of the resources, all of the conversations, everything that you need in order to attain that thing that you need.
Yep.
So it's for a lot of people, they think it's like woo woo, but it's science. It's
Well,
physics.
this is when we talk about the book, right?
Oh, well, we can talk about the book.
I mean, I think we have to talk about the book because that's what we're talking about.
Okay.
So
I love it.
You introduced this book to me, Stacy. Tell Melissa and the people about the book.
Well, there's a book called The Science of Getting Rich by Wallace D. Wattles.
That's the one
I've ever read. It's closely followed up by The Four Agreements, but I'm still putting Science of Getting Rich ahead of it. And it talks about the formless substance, and your thought creates from the formless substance. So we're always interacting with the formless substance. Some people are going to call it the ether, the universe, the quantum
energy
source, all this stuff. We're swimming in it. It's everywhere. It's all around us, and it interacts with us. This is one of the reasons that I love going to Big Rock Valley, because it is the place where everything there thinks back at you, because you can do it everywhere, but it's like very powerful there. So that book was incredibly important to me because it talked about the so many things in that book are so important, but it talked to me about like how this really does work, that there is a substance from which all things are made, and we have the ability to use our thought to create things with our minds and cause the things that we think about to be created.
And
I love that. And I love that it comes from a book that talks about it in a business sense, not in the woo sense.
Right. Well, and let's talk about how long ago it was written and how many pages it is.
It's a short book. It's probably, what would you say, like 100 pages?
I was going to say 80.
It's like big print.
Yeah, it's like a pamphlet.
I have a big print for everybody. And it's a short book, and it was written in the early 1900s. So when people were really starting to...
like 1910.
Yeah, 1910, 1913, something like that. And it was part of the New Thought movement. And there were all of these New Thought leaders. And Wallace D. Wattles was a minister, which I also love about this, because actually the Bible is filled with, the whole Bible is quantum physics.
Yes.
And
business.
Yeah. Yes. Yes. Right. So yeah, really early in the 1900s was when the book was written. And there's a chapter in that book that I also particularly love, which is to create for people the impression of increase. And I like to call it the experience of increase, because I think now the way that we use language, people think, well, the impression of something might not really be real. So if you give somebody the impression that you are this, really might not be the case. But if you can give somebody the experience of increase, and it really helped me develop the core values for my business, because I loved that idea that every person that comes into contact with me, my employees, my product, my services, I want them to feel that they were made left better off in every possible fashion, that something about their life, their day was increased, that it was made better because they came into contact with something that we said, did, or provided. And I feel like when you can really do that for people, and you do that from this place of genuine love for them, that just feels so good. They just love feeling that way. Everybody wants to feel that way. And it was something that I always kind of knew that I wanted to do with my business. We say that we want to give good service and want our customers to know that we care about them. But when I read that book, I just thought, wow, what a brilliant thing to really incorporate into the culture of my business and into the core values. And there's this little line in there that says, even if you're just giving a stick of candy to a child, do it and hand it to them with increase, with the impression of increase. And I want every little packet of granola that a kid gets in a school. I want them to feel like that.
Hmm.
Everyone was made with the intention of increase and love and abundance and joy for them.
That's beautiful.
Thanks.
Mm-hmm.
I wish I thought of it.
No, it is beautiful. One of the things, and Stacey, I don't know if you want to go there or not, but kind of talking a little bit about the happiness smile movement that you've kind of been working on for a while now.
Yeah, it really touches back on this idea of increase and leaving people with this real feeling. And when my mom was diagnosed with dementia, we noticed things about her personality that were really different. One of the things that I noticed that she started doing was she started talking to strangers, and that wasn't something that she did before. And so we would take her somewhere, I'd have her for the day and take her to get her nails done or to lunch or something, and shopping at the store. And she would see somebody that we did not know, and it could have been anybody. It was mostly women. Sometimes it was like little children, but it was mostly women. And she would see somebody and you could see it happening. And she would walk right up to them and she would look them right in the face and she would say, "You are so beautiful."
Mm-hmm.
And people would have their responses were really interesting. So some people were like really surprised, like, because why is this happening? And who is this person? I don't know them. And they're processing, they're surprised. And then there's other people who like accept it immediately and they're like, "Oh, thank you. You're so sweet. That's so nice." And then there were the people who would start to cry.
Mm.
And those were the ones that really got me because you could tell that no one had ever, or maybe ever, or maybe recently had really seen them or given them a compliment or said something nice to them. And they would cry in it. And then they were surprised by themselves crying. And then they would be apologetic about why they were crying. And, it brought my mom such happiness to do this to people, and you could not stop her from doing it. And it was really difficult during COVID because everybody was like, we're not supposed to be seeing each other and touching each other and, whatever, getting close to each other. But when I saw what that did for people, it really was powerful for me because I just thought, how sad is it that we could be going days and years and decades without somebody saying something nice to us or saying something nice to ourselves about ourselves, or saying something nice to somebody else for no reason. And it was this really impactful experience for me that I just thought, I just want to bring more of this in the world because we tell ourselves all of these stories about who we are and who we are not and what we can do or what we can't do and what we deserve and what we don't deserve. And most of the time those stories aren't true. And those stories are based on the false stories that other people told us about who we are. And when you can help somebody rewrite their story, it's one of the most magical experiences that you can give to them because you give them this invitation, this opportunity to just start all over again, exploring this idea of who they are. And it was the greatest gift that I think my mom ever gave me.
You should write a book about it.
That's a big idea.
Mm-hmm.
But really, I think that it is ever since you told me that, and it's been a couple of years. I look for people. I'm traveling by myself, whatever, and I see somebody else, specifically women, who are crossing the street or walking down the sidewalk or whatever. And I'm not going to catcall them. That doesn't feel like the right approach. But to say that color looks really good on you, or I love those shoes. Just a little something. It seems to really catch people.
I did that at the Four Columns in New Orleans once. I was waiting on a friend and I saw this woman, maybe about 10 years older than me, so maybe 65, and she had on a pretty scarf. And I just commented, and I was like, "Oh my gosh, that scarf is awesome." And she stopped in her tracks, locked eyes with me, and almost got weepy and said, "Thank you." I was like, "You're welcome." And she even said, she goes, "Just sometimes as you get older, you start to feel invisible." And I said, "Oh, I see you. I see you."
That's
And
it.
and she just delighted. And that, I love little moments like that. And I, as a counselor, I get to see that transformation, kind of close up and in person. And I'm sure your coach loves to see you thrive the way you are.
Yeah, it's so fun because one of the things that he talks about is transformation specifically. And that transformation doesn't happen when your results change or your results meet what you want them to be. Transformation happens when you decide. And I think we can like extrapolate that into all of these other areas of life, that like in these small moments, in these little teeny tiny moments that seem insignificant, there's many times an opportunity for a seed of transformation to happen. And you don't have to become a different person on that day, but the transformation happens because you're introduced to the idea that's different than what you had, which I think is super exciting.
Very much so. Stacy, if your younger self could see you now, what would she say?
I think a lot about her, and a lot of what I do with my business is for her. I owe a lot of what I'm doing to her because she was a real survivor. And if it wouldn't have been for her being scrappy and stubborn and the black sheep and the unacceptable one and the willful one, um, I I don't know what I would be doing. I don't know what my life would be like. Now, I am glad that I got a lot of help to help her.
Yeah.
So get
Because
support. We
when I
don't do it
look
alone.
yeah,
What would
when I
you, what kind of leadership lessons do you hold on to, like things that you've learned and how the leader that you are to your company?
from her,
Or just like over the years, what you've learned about the leader you are and the leader you want to be.
oh, well, I think one of the things that I would say leadership quality that I gained from her was just being persistent and being, stubborn has such a negative quality and it's lazy for me to use that word, but this is real
Persistence.
that she had that turned into persistence. So, to help people see that, persistence, you're going to use your will and your persistence to get through the hard times. And if you give in to every moment of frustration and anger and disappointment and let that stop you, that's when you fail. You don't fail when you keep going. You fail when you stop trying. That's when it's really over, when you give up and you quit. And so I would hope that the people that work with me and interact with me would be inspired by persistence and always having, like Jaci said, this perspective. It's all going to work out. I want you to try. I want you to show up. But I do want you to believe and know that with your effort and your belief, it is going to work out. That's the attitude. That the default attitude isn't that it's going to be bad news all the time, but it's going to work out.
Okay.
What's your relationship with the word bossy?
I don't know. I don't really think about the word bossy, but I love that that's the name of your podcast because it's really clever.
Thanks.
I probably, as a kid, was pretty bossy. I don't know.
Fair enough.
I feel like it has a different connotation being a woman, and I know Jaci hates those kind of woman versus man perspectives, but
well, I mean, it's true. I'll say to Kevin sometimes, I'm about to interact with this person, and it's going to be, over a point that might be a little bit contentious. And if I were a guy, it would just be me saying what I think. But now, because I'm me and because I'm a woman and because I have this standard, and to me, it's about standards. This is about standards. It's not about gender. It's about standards. Now I'm a bitch, right? So now the bitch is going to be delivering the news, not the dude who's going to be like, "Hey, cut it out."
yeah.
It's a different standard.
Yeah.
Different expectation.
Whether we like it or not. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's frustrating. It shouldn't be different, but it is. And that is frustrating. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah,
That's it.
it's one of those things. I don't know how we escape it. A lot of times I'll go into ChatGPT and just be like, I want to say this. Tell me how I can not say it like that.
And does
I
it
love
change
that.
it? Does it really change it? Or does it say, oh, you really should kind of say it like that?
No, it tells me a nicer way to say it.
Really? Well, and there's your stubbornness and your persistence that pays off. That's how you get out of it.
You just troubleshoot those problems
Yes.
using technology.
And that's what the tech is there for. Let's use it. Absolutely.
Absolutely.
So is there a defining moment in your journey that you can look back on now and say, this changed everything?
Kevin Frank and Detroit Public Schools changed everything about my life. That
Right.
was a defining moment. I would say also a really big defining moment for me was when I heard my coach, who was not my coach at the time, talking on his podcast. And he was talking about how your attitude is so much more important than you realize that it is. And that you might think that you have a good attitude, but the real litmus test for your attitude is, do you have as good of an attitude when things are going wrong as you do when things are going right?
That's a good one. That's
Oh.
convicting.
And that reversed so much for me. Like that was like an immediate check.
Right.
How good is my attitude? A lot of times we think we have a good attitude. No, you don't. How good is your attitude when things are going wrong? It's easy to have a good attitude when you're all the things that you do are turning out well.
Right.
That's a good one.
I love that. I love that. I am realizing that we're almost at the hour mark, and I don't understand how that happened so fast. And I know it's just because I was enjoying this, but still. So Stacy, how do the people find you, and can they buy Three Little Birds granola themselves? Do they have to go back to school? Do they have to tell their kids to steal it from the cafeteria? How does the system work that regular people can still get your yummy goodness?
It's a blend of those things.
Okay.
So we're still, 99% of the business is operating in K-12. And we do some online, which we do through Shopify, and I think Amazon is coming next month. That's been something that we have hired people to do and to take care of. And
excuse me.
So once all of those pieces are in play, it'll be, I'm sure, easier for them to access that way. But what I'm told is, you need Amazon and the reviews on Amazon to help you with the Shopify, and you eventually balance between the two. And I let other people handle that.
I'm sorry to keep cutting you off. I'm just excited, so I want to cut you off. So is that saying that there's another evolution of Three Little Birds coming?
There will be an evolution of Three Little Birds, which is, e-commerce, direct to consumer. At this time, I don't have an interest in being in retail stores. I'm not going to rule that out for the future, but for now, we'd really rather keep it the way we have it. I want to give the best possible experience to the market that I love, that I really feel is my calling. And so anything that takes away from that, I'm always I'm cautious about it.
Yeah. Okay.
I love everything about that. Stacy, you have, as always, been awesome. And I hope that people find you online and make Amazon glad to carry you now, because this has just been awesome.
Thank you. Thanks for having me on your podcast.
Thanks for being here.
Are you too bossy?
I am the bossiest of bosses. Melissa's co-bossy, but I'm like head boss.
Okay.
Because I'm more decisive than her, and I make both of us do things that are outside of our comfort zone all the time.
Yeah, and I'm getting into other leadership avenues, and so the comment about being decisive is something that I will need to lean into and develop myself.
It's a real game changer, because then you're really playing at the level that you deserve to play at.
Right.
I thank you for that. Thanks for all your insights. This was good. It's good to see you.
It's good to see you too.
Thanks, Stacy Sloan.
Thank you.